In 2024, your host, Mark Smith, celebrated 7 years of the Microsoft Business Applications podcast. Now, we step into a transformative 2025 with a fresh new name. Welcome to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast. Our new name reflects a broader vision, exploring the intersection of people, business, technology, and AI. You'll also hear from me, Meg Smith, a bit more as we launch a new exciting series called The AI Show.
Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from Sydney in New South Wales, Australia. I actually first met her in Singapore. She works at NCS Group as a pre-sales lead. She was first awarded her MVP in 2021. She is actively involved in the Microsoft Dynamics community through leadership, contribution, event organization, speaking engagements, and blogging. She is co-leader of the ASEAN Microsoft BizApps user group and is the co-organizer of the UG talks and hackathons for the ASEAN community, which is totally amazing. You can find links to her show notes, bio, etc., in the show notes for this episode. So any of her bio, in show notes. Welcome to the show, Manonmani.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Did I pronounce your name right? Manonmani? Is that correct?
Manonmani. Manonmani is my correct name. Manonmani, well, in Greece, for me, it's like jumbled up almost all alphabets in the English, I think. Hence, I just keep it short, Manonmani, VS. And even easy, keep it Mano.
What's the VS for?
Well, in Greece, for me, it's my father's name and my grandfather's name.
Awesome. That is so cool. Before we start telling stories about last time we met, which is just pre-pandemic, tell us a bit about food, family, and fun. What took you to Australia? What do you like there? What do you miss from home? And anything else that you do when it's not about Microsoft Business Applications.
Awesome. So I'll start with a little bit of my background. So born in India and lived in a small city in the southern side of India called Coimbatore. And it's known as this Manchester of South India. Industries, business predominantly, and also agriculture is the backbone there. And something unique about the city I still enjoy is like when you step into the city itself, you will still see farmlands within the heart of the city. You don't have to go to the countryside. And that's predominantly because of the nature of, the mindset of the owners. They don't want to leave farming. Generation by generation, they still live in that land. And some of them are still my relatives as well. So that's something I find unique in that city. And graduated with master's in software engineering and moved to Singapore. That's when I got married to my husband. Yes, of course, my husband. And so I worked in Chennai for a year before moving to Singapore, and it was predominantly on Microsoft CRM. And it took me 9 months in Singapore to find my first job because it wasn't easy for me to get into the market with just 1 year India experience. And PeopleSoft wasn't picking up well during that time. So just started to do a little bit of research. So what's going on in this market? What's more demanding? It was I didn't have much support from the community or outside, just all by myself, Googling and finding stuff. And I saw this Microsoft Dynamics CRM popping up a lot, getting a lot of traction, and a lot of recruiters were asking for profiles around that technology. And it's not like today you just click a few clicks, you get the 30-day trial and you get to see what's in the system, right? But those days it was like I have to literally set up the VMs, Hyper-V days, and install SQL Server, CRM Server, and the reporting services, and then have to open the system and see, oh yeah, this sounds familiar to me. It's leads, contacts, opportunities, pretty much same what I have done, but in a different software. Okay, let me learn it. And did some certificates, and in a few days, I think I was able to get a job, and it's like small boutique firm where I started my career, first with 2011, but I did work on 4.0 versions as well. Since then, I think I have never turned back and said or regretted for choosing this. I'm still enjoying this career, and did a little bit of technical side and functional as well, and moved into that architecture side of things, and lately into pre-sales. And in Singapore, I definitely enjoyed the convenience there. But after a couple of years, I felt like there's nothing much to see here. I've seen a lot here. So let me just move to different cities. So that's when I thought, okay, let me move to Australia. And I think in 2021, during COVID time, is when I made this move, spending like 14 days in quarantine. And that was the best time, I would say. It's like do nothing time for me. Like you can't do anything anyway, even if you want to. And food is served. You're treated so well. So there's a positive of being in quarantine, like give some rest to your body. Otherwise, I'll be like on my toes always. And 3 years to 4 years, I'm living here. So what I miss most about the place where I came from is like, of course, India. My family is still there. And in Singapore, that's when I explored a lot of food options. And it's like I'm spoiled for options. Half the time I don't do cooking at home. I'll be like spending time outside, hanging out with my family, always exploring food. And I think I have picked up on Thai and Chinese and Malaysian cooking as well. I still do it at home. So at home, it's not always Indian food. It's like a variety I make. And my daughter is like a little bit spoiled as well now. And if I like go back to Indian for a couple of days, she's like, no, I'm eating Indian food always, mommy, no. That's the thing. So that's about the food. So I'm a foodie. I love exploring a lot of varieties, which I also try to cook at home. And of course, people I do miss as well. And it's in early 30s that you establish those connections, and like by way of like interacting with your kids. Like I have a daughter and a son, and you just get to like establish that relationship with your friends in the neighborhood. And I have to like leave everything after 10 years living in Singapore and move to Sydney. That's something I still miss, and my daughter also misses it. And in Sydney, I definitely enjoy the culture here, and a little bit relaxed life, I would say, if we want to keep it relaxed, unless you want to get busy yourself. Yeah.
That is brilliant. A couple of things I want to highlight, or my takeaways from that is for all of you listening that complain about, you only get a 30-day trial. What Manonmani described there was our experience in the early days of Dynamics. We had to set up our own VMs. We had to install all those big, Exchange Server was another one, right? If you needed email to run, you needed to install Exchange Server on your VMs to make it all end-to-end run, unless you plugged into a third party like a SMTP type setup. So there was a lot of work where if you wanted to set up a play environment or a demo environment, it's a lot easier nowadays. I'm interested in just indexing on one little thing there. When I look and talk to people all around the world in this community, different markets pay different salaries and income levels. And my observation is this, because I lived for 4 years in Sydney myself. And when I went from New Zealand to Sydney, my income went up over 4 to 5 times the amount that I was making in New Zealand. So it was a phenomenal jump. And I always, in my time in Australia, felt Australia is the land of milk and honey, as they say, is that you can make really good money in the business applications community. However, when I moved to the UK, and in the UK, I was shocked about how low people are paid. And it's, it comes down to market demand, right? They've got all of Europe on their doorstep, and so there's a lot of skilled talent. And even my wife working at Google at that time was paid a lot less in the UK for the same job that she was doing in Sydney at Google. So Australia is one of those markets that pay really well. But there's one market that even pays better than Australia in the research I've done, and I want you to confirm it, and that is Singapore. And I suppose that Singapore, the difference is it's 8% flat tax, right? Is the tax rate in Singapore?
Absolutely. You got it right, Mark. So if I come, like I have lived in both these cities, I would say like my savings was way far better in Singapore compared to what I'm saving now. And I would say like if I go to Singapore, I will definitely earn the same amount that I'm getting now right here in this market for business applications, but the saving obviously will be higher. The maximum tax I remember paying is like 11% when I left Singapore, 11 or 15. The worst case, you will pay 15, not more than that.
And that's crazy because what is it in Australia at the moment with the ATO?
49%, I think, the highest.
Crazy difference. It's the same in New Zealand, just absolutely ridiculously high. I think 39% is the top tax bracket in New Zealand that you can go into for a PAYE or as a salary-based employee, a wages-based employee.
Yeah, and also other fact I would like to highlight is like recently traveled to Singapore for an event, BISAP's Copilot launch event, and I had to spend some, time in the local food courts, and I specifically went to the same one where I used to always go during my Singapore days, and the Hainanese chicken rice is still $5.90. It still haven't changed after 3 years, but here it's like $18 easily minimum.
Yeah, it's crazy. And just for those of you that have not been to Singapore, the street food that you can get there earns Michelin stars. That's the kind of quality. I literally have earned Michelin stars. So it's like a top quality street food in Singapore. I love Singapore. I personally could easily live there. I just think it's an amazing country city. In my experience, tell me about. You've had, quite a career, being that you started in Dynamics CRM 2011 back then. I don't think it was even called Dynamics in the real OG versions. The Power Platform came out, in 2016, or Power Apps first came out in 2016. 2019, we had the term Power Platform, which is, of course, this grouping of apps together. What's been the biggest change across your career that you've observed in how you think about building applications for customers?
Well, so it was during 2016. I still remember those days, and I was introduced to Power App first by Scott Duro. So I was working in his team for a real estate organization where he joins us from UK. He lived in UK those days, and we're in the same team. And I was involved in a project where I used Sparkle XRM framework, Scott's framework. And we used to do a lot of extensions like editable grid and stuff like that. Pretty easily, we could spin up that functionality with this XRM component of side of things. And when we saw Power App, I was like, I didn't realize it's a low code or something. That was not the introduction I had. I just thought, okay, it's another app. Wasn't really sure how to use it or navigate with that. But then from 2016, CRM 2016, it just moved to 365. It was another big change during the same time as well. And we saw like how the CRM and ERP side of things were pulled together from AX and GP, I think all moved into like FinOps side. And then when we started, I saw it as another app, didn't go much deep into it. But then I think it was such a boom. It's like it was so fast that it picked up, and whatever we used to do in those extensions, like custom extensions, like breaking our head around bringing those HTML components, like you need to find the HTML to match the CRM application, which was really challenging. Like it's like when you open a CRM application, you will have developers building some custom components that will be like, it's like as if you have stitched a a piece of cloth on your torn jean. That's how you will see. But with Power Platform and the it's also running on Script Sharp, I think, and you will get the same look and feel. It's like you don't feel it's a patched piece of work, but you just see that it blends so well within the CRM UI.
Yeah, so true, so true. In your extensive career, what do you think has been the highlight project? If you could only tell one story about one project, one customer, and by the way, you don't need to use their name, but what's been that kind of what industry was it in? What was the use case that you were solving for? That's kind of like the pinnacle project you've been on in your career so far.
I would like to discuss this project for the real estate client, where we had implementation across the EMEA region, and each of these regions, they had their own CRM processes, but they have managing the properties, and within the property, you have to capture the floor information, and you have to also capture the availabilities and stuff like that, and creating brochures and marketing. So it's marketing side of things and sales side of things covered within that one system. The challenge for us was to bring into an alignment in our CRM system with all these different deployments. So if you compare a core instance where you have set of functionalities, and if you compare it with one or two regions, you will see that one region will have 40% deviation from the core, and the other will have 30% deviation. And it's not feasible for us to always have separate instances and build their functionalities as well. So we wanted to bring it to an alignment and with the core and streamline those processes. But it was really hard for us to negotiate with those individual country leads or something, and they were no, we do cross-sell this way, this is how our opportunity works. So that was an interesting conversation, and to bring that alignment was really challenging for us.
Nice, good example. Tell me a bit about the Asian Microsoft Business Applications user group. What are you doing in that? Who is the community? Because we've got listeners from all over the world. Perhaps you can give us some background how it came about, and how that community is made up, and kind of what you do within it.
Well, so it started just before COVID, I think, right in time. And before the community engagement, especially the Microsoft one, I was my personality, if I define as an introvert, wasn't outgoing and engaging more in the community. No, that's not me. But after being introduced to a few folks there, they just pulled me, hey, Manu, would you be able to join me for this dinner? I have to introduce to the rest of the community members. It was Dipesh, Jiva, Kasoon, and Sanjeev, few others in the community who just pulled me and say, sit down here, talk to these people. It was so good to be there. And we didn't have that community initially, and slowly we started thinking of having one for ourselves in Singapore, and we had support from Microsoft as well. And when we started it, it was really a challenge for us, because not many people want to come in person, but we just leveraged the COVID thing where you could go online, and people were excited to come for online events. And sometimes we did have in-person events as well, but we did see another challenge where if you look at a photo, you will see only mostly men, I would say. So the gender was not in balance. So we thought we need to create a safe and a small community for women to come in, step in, and share and feel comfortable. So we came up with Asians, Women in Tech. And the reason we call it Asians is we started as a Singapore community, but then we stepped into other markets as well. Microsoft backed us up, and we had communities in Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Indonesia as well. So we used to run annual conferences once in a year, and apart from that, on a monthly basis, each country will operate in their own local communities. They run sessions with support from the local Microsoft people. With that said, I would call myself as, that they call, sometimes people call themselves serial entrepreneur. I would say like serial community leader. So after that, I moved to Sydney and I joined the Sydney BizApps women user group, where I was like contributing as an organizer as well. We built the community and supported it. And slowly we thought like, let's be more inclusive. We'll bring more people in because we don't have a Microsoft users, business applications user group for the entire crowd. We had a women one running. We didn't see one happening for everyone to come in. So we thought like, we'll switch the focus and let's open it for everyone. And we came up with Sydney Microsoft BizApps user group, which I'm still running it. And it's purely an in-person user group. We don't run online events here. And for the past 2 years, I've been contributing as a community leader, organizer in national, or we call it as Australian BizApps user group as well. And apart from this, I work with Alexandro Harbachenko for IT transfer launch. And that has a totally different concept where you empower people who is taking that shift from non-IT to IT career, or students who wanted to get into the IT market. So that's another community focused on that specific target audience.
Wow, that is a lot. That's incredible. So good, that level of involvement in the community. Just back on the ASEAN site, is that still running? How active is that across, it's probably Southeast Asia type countries, right?
Yes. So we still have individual user groups running at the local level, but it's been a while that we haven't done the annual conference. Maybe for the past 2 years, we haven't done the annual conferences. But apart from that, the individual Singapore one is running, Philippines and Malaysia is still running.
Yeah. Awesome. So good to hear. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Your story has been amazing. Hopefully it inspires a lot of people, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, Mark. It was my pleasure having you.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.
Support for this episode comes from Justin Welsh's guide to finding your voice on LinkedIn. When I worked at Google, I never posted on LinkedIn because I didn't think anyone wanted to hear what I had to say. Then I took Justin's course, and it gave me the confidence to start sharing authentically. Check it out if you've been wanting to show up on LinkedIn but don't know how to start. Sign up using the link in the show notes.